So just recording what I'm saying, the lecture, not your names, don't worry. Okay, I think I gave everyone a copy of this. Yes, I sent you an email. I didn't really do much to the schedule. I just rejiggered it a little bit, moved one reading up, and I forgot I wanted to add a reading from Plato. It's just an excerpt. It's like 6 pages long, but it's from his Phaedrus, his dialogue, the Phaedrus with Socrates. So we want to take a look at that. So as I said in the syllabus, if I make a change to it, I'll email you, I'll put it in the announcements, and I also have to give you a hard copy. I'm supposed to give you a hard copy. All right, folks over here. All right, good to see you all. I'm going to talk about the syllabus for a bit, not the whole class. But I'm going to talk about the main things in the syllabus. Hopefully you downloaded it, uploaded it, downloaded it to your computer. You have it. If you've got it on your computer, you might want to look at it now. If you don't, then get it, please. It's on Canvas as well. You can look at it on Canvas. And that's my first thing that I'm going to tell you and to emphasize. Read the syllabus. Read the syllabus. I'm not going to talk about the whole syllabus today. I'm just going to go over the main points because I've done classes before. You know, I just talk about the whole first class. I talk about the syllabus, but I know nobody listens, because 3 months later, people are still coming up to me asking me questions that are addressed on anybody, the syllabus, so they don't listen. And they don't read it. I understand it's 50 pages long or around 50. I had to write it. So, I know it's long and I wish it were, and actually maybe I don't wish it were like the old days where I just gave out a couple of pages. That was 20 years ago. But it has to be extensive. People need to know it's like a contract, and that's true. You need to know what's expected of you and what you expect of me. So we make sure that I fulfill my side and you fulfill yours. In case there are any issues. Hopefully there are no issues or problems, but you need to know. And 20 years ago, you could get away with, a couple of sheets of paper and bullet points and very sketchy syllabus. And then after that, you just go, oh, that's the professor. And the professor kind of almost makes it up on the fly. But you can't do that anymore. So I understand it's long. So speed read it. Take the sections that are major and important, like the requirements for the course, class attendance, lateness, if you hand stuff in late or come to class late. Those are important. Maybe something like Title IX doesn't refer to everybody in the course. Related to gender equity and like sports and non-discrimination and stuff like that. Maybe that doesn't refer to you, so you can pass over that. Or how to, writing requirements or not writing requirements, the objectives of the course, because now we all have to have objectives, to tell you what this is going to do for you. Understand encountering sacred writings. What practically it's going to do for you. I don't know how it's going to help you serve Starbucks coffee any better, but I don't know. We have to do objectives anyway. So you can skip over the objectives if you want, But there are some things that are important. So you do need to peruse it. And what I did when I was a student, and you don't have to do this, but it's a suggestion, you go through and you find those major things like, when are the quizzes going to be up? When are they due? When's the paper due? The discussion board, and you write that information down. You don't necessarily have to read everything about it now, but you write it down. Maybe when it gets closer to the time that you want to write the paper, you take a look to see what you need to do for it or what's expected. If you want to read it all at once, then fine. But you write this stuff down, make a little crib sheet for yourself so you can fill out your calendar and just know. So you're not, you know what the expectations are and you're not surprised. Because, well, I know Mr. Barnett's name. Some of the names are coming to me, I think. Not sure. Well, we'll see. Anyways, because if you come to Dr. Dunn and ask him a question that is covered specifically, explicitly on the syllabus, what do you think he's going to say to you? What will his reaction be other than getting another gray hair in my beard? That's all right. I've already got like 25 gray hairs just a moment ago. Is it? What do you think I'm going to say to you, Mr. I got you. I got your first name. Mr. McMaster. What do you think I'm going to say to you, sir? Yeah, read the syllabus, please. You know, I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything, but I'm not going to go over stuff that has gone over in the syllabus because if the logical thought is, well, you know, I wonder if he wants me to do X for the course. Okay, do you think the syllabus will cover that? Okay, then look in the syllabus. If it's not clear, or it's not clear, or it's not addressed at all, then you can say, okay, I got to ask the professor, ask the instructor, what's going on here, and I have no problem with that. And I'm not, when I say a problem, I'm not like angry or anything, but you know, it's frustrating because my first question is going to probably be, what does the syllabus say? And I'll see what your answer is. Because if you already know what the syllabus says, then what's the question? Okay, then we can proceed. If you don't know, then I'm going to turn you right around and go read the syllabus because you don't even know what you're asking. You just want the information. Well, I'm giving you the information. It's been given to you. Please read the syllabus. Number 1. Number 2, the basic info for the course. Okay, you know the name, you know when we're meeting, apparently, the days and the room. So I guess I don't have to go over that. You know who I am because I sent you an email. And hopefully you've looked at Canvas, and I've got some information about me on Canvas. The course description is taken from the catalog. I did not write it. Someone else wrote it from the department, I guess. This course examines the features of religious faith that are common. Oh, no, whoops. We messed up by reading from the right syllabus. See, I got all 3 of them here. There we go. I get moving and then I forget. Okay, here we are. This course introduces students to the issues involved in reading and understanding sacred texts, whether one reads texts as a believer or not. All right, so you don't have to be a believer in any sacred text or not, or specifically in the Bible or not, or the Quran or whatever, but we're going to talk about sacred texts. Religious texts might be a better way to put it. Given the nature of Gwynedd Mercy University, the biblical texts of the Old and New Testaments, should be plural, form the core of the course. Well, they're pretty much going to form the whole course. Because, I mean, you could go anywhere with sacred texts. I mean, you've got many, many religions with many, many sacred texts. I'm going to mainly, since this is a Catholic university, a Christian school, by its history and its lineage, I'm going to focus on primarily the biblical text. And to provide comparisons and contrast with the Judeo-Christian biblical tradition. All right. Basically the Bible. I don't know why they couldn't just say the Bible, but whatever. Some selective writings from other major religions will be examined in a limited manner. Probably not. I will try, as I say in the syllabus, I just want to qualify that because I did not write this description. So this is what someone else thought, but then when you get to the boots on the ground, things change. So there is a lot of material in the course. I can't guarantee that I'll always cover stuff from other religions. I might try to mention things from other religions. As we're talking, like say, what is writing, or talking about what is the sacred. So certainly that opens the door to talk about other religions and their texts. But when I'm talking specifically, obviously, about the Bible, I'm going to be talking about the Bible. I might make some connections if there are relationships between biblical stories and other religious stories, but mainly the focus will be on Christian and Jewish and Christian sacred writings in general for like the first half of the course, just the idea. Okay. Okay. So the books for the course, if you go on, has anyone gotten the books? Have you gone on the bookstore and gotten them? You did? You got bins? You got it already? Okay. The Bible, which is obviously, if it's a course on sacred texts, you're going to need a sacred text, something. So one of your books is the Bible, so get that, which the version they have on the bookstore. It doesn't have to be a Catholic Bible, but it would be preferable just because there might be some readings from the Bible that are not in other Bibles, Protestant Bibles, and I might ask you to read. But, if you don't want to get it, that's fine. You just have to go on the internet and you can locate the Book of Tobit or Sirach, wherever it's on the internet, and redo the reading if I get a read from there. Bible is a very simple book to use. It has a table of contents in the front. So if you're not familiar with it, you don't know where a book is, just look at the table of contents. That's that simple. Look for the chapters, okay? And you go down the list until you find the book that the reading is from. Oh, he wants us to read from Isaiah. That's on page 862 in this Bible. So go to page 862. Okay, so I'm in Isaiah. Well, then you'll notice that Isaiah is numbered according to chapters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 66 in case of Isaiah. So if I ask you to read chapter, I don't know, 39, then, you know numbers. So you just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you go find the chapter 39, and if I say I want you to read verses 1 to 5, it's somehow, you'll notice there are little numbers next to each sentence to identify the sentence further. So you read from the little 1 to the little 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can ignore the rest if I don't ask you to read it. You can look at it and read it if you want, but you just want to do the reading, that's the reading. So it's very simple, I think. If it's not, you can ask me some questions about it. The other book is Binns. I did bring Binns with me. I didn't take them out of my bag here. Let me get Binns. Stephen Binns used to be a priest. Found a woman. Anyways. But one thing you'll notice about this book is it's very thin, right? Very thin. By design, sir. Because I had to read it first. You can see all my marks, mainly what I was going to ask questions on. This would be a good question for a quiz. It would be a good question. But yeah, I had to read it myself. So it's a thin book. It's not long. Which means the chapters are not very long. Okay, so just recognize that. I know it's still, you have to read it. Okay, I understand that, but I did try to be considerate of the work that you have to do and try to do something that would still address the question, address it accurately, but address it shortly. so you can get through it relatively fast. Okay, it's not bad. It's relatively accurate. There are a few mistakes, which I might call out when we get to these various sections. But anyway, so this is the book. This is also on the bookstore website, so take a look, get it, please. Rent it, whatever. That's the other thing. All right, the books, I talked about that. The requirements for the course. All right. There are, well, first there's a final exam at the end of the course. That will be cumulative, so we'll cover everything from now, first day, until our last class. All right? So take notes, do whatever you need to do to remember the information. Well, not whatever you need to do, because, well, no, I'm sure I'm dealing with good ethical people. So, yeah, I'm fine. Anyways, but I am dealing with human beings, and I know how human beings are, because I know how I am. Although that's a faulty assumption. I shouldn't assume that all human beings are like me just because I'm a certain way. Interesting. Well, it's not a philosophy course. Move on, Mr. Dunn. Anyways, the final exam, okay? 40% of the grade, so it's a rather largest chunk of the grade. And then there are 4 quizzes. I usually give 5, but I decided I'd be lazy and give 4. Still 50 questions a quiz. And I have a lot of questions. I've hundreds of questions. So I'm, warn anyone right now who might need warning that it's very unlikely you're going to get the same quiz as somebody else. I mean, it's possible that, Canvas will randomly select some questions that someone else might have gotten and stuff. But I have hundreds of questions for each quiz. So it's not likely that anyone is going to get exactly the same quiz. There are going to be a number of questions very different. Nevertheless, quizzes, which will be on the classes of what we covered up to the quiz. Okay, so it's not cumulative, but it's from class to class, from what we covered. Okay, so I'm not going to ask you something I haven't covered in the class yet on a quiz. In the final, I will. And you should also know that there might be questions. I don't know how Canvas will randomize the quiz. So there might be questions that you never get on Canvas for your quiz that might show up on the final exam. They're there, but Canvas just through its algorithm, decided not to choose them for your quiz. So be aware of that. So pay attention, please. One paper on a discussion question that's on Canvas, and that's 15%. And the conditions for the paper, how I want it written, are in the syllabus quite explicitly. So there shouldn't be any problem with someone not doing it the way I'm asking you to do it. I'm not just asking you to do it because I'm trying to be a hard nose or something. The only thing I really, really want is to know who's writing, your name, know which course it's for and what it is. That's really all I need to know. Okay, the rest of it, as long as you're consistent font, consistent spacing, it's not sloppy and disordered stuff like, then formatting, I don't care if you use Arial or Times New Roman or Courier New or whatever, whatever you prefer. And I'm go through all of this in detail in the syllabus. It is an 800 word minimum. So that's the minimum to write. So at least you have to write something. You have to write like 2 pages single spaced. Okay. So hopefully it's not too long for you to read or write and not too long for me to read. But obviously, if you want to go beyond that, or you need to go beyond that to express your thoughts, be my guest. That's fine. That'll benefit you. But the minimum is going to be 800. That's what I'm expecting. So if you do less than 800 words, you're going to get a lower grade. You're going to have deductions for not even reaching the minimum for that. Okay, so the paper is there. You can look at the requirements for it. I mentioned that. I don't think I need to say anything. There's a discussion board we'll have later in the course, which I think is already up on Canvas. And you basically go on there, you answer the question, whatever the question is that I give you. I'm trying to think off the top of my head what I asked. Anyway, I can't remember right now. Anyways, but you look at the question, you do what I'm asking you to do, and then you write a thread. Okay, you have to write a thread. You can't respond to any other threads until you do the work first. You do your own work. So you write a thread. There's no word count. I don't give you any word count. It's as you show me what you know and what you can do, basically. Okay, give me a couple of sentences. All right, fine. You give me a couple of paragraphs. Okay, that might be better, unless it's just rambling. But, you're showing me your knowledge and your thought. That's your, coaches throwing you the ball and saying, okay, show me what you can do with it, kid. Can you get it in the net? Let's see, That's what coaches do. Is soccer, or at least soccer coaches, throw them the ball and see who plays with it and who doesn't. The guys who play with it, they're going to probably start. The guys who just kind of stand there yakking with their other buddies is like, all right, you're second team. So that's where you can show me. So you do a thread, and then you have to answer 2 other threads by other people addressing what they discussed. Okay? And really address it, I should say, because, you get this a lot, so I'll mention it. If you're just going to write, yeah, I really agree with what you wrote above. Okay, that's a response, but that's not really a response. You know what I'm saying? Okay, it's nice, great. I'm glad you agree or disagree with what the person wrote in the thread. Tell me why. Give me specifics. What's wrong? What's right? Add your own thoughts to it as well. Already, sir? Already? Oh, God bless you, sir. You keep me humble. But yeah, I mean, you got to do more than just say, I understand the temptation is it's late at night, you're tired, it's near the end of the semester, you've had a bunch of other things that you needed to do, and you just don't want to write. So, okay, yeah, John, that's a really great point you made. I agree with that. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, I got it done. Okay. All right, fine. You did it. Don't expect a high grade for that. But yeah, you want to write more than just that. You want to show me that you've read the person's thread and you've tried to think about it. Class participation, 15%. So discussion board's 10%. So it's not that high. So if you bomb it, it's not like it's going to, hopefully it wouldn't kill your grade, depending on how you're doing on the other stuff. Class participation. You're not required to participate, but I want to judge that you are engaging with the course, that you're thinking about the material, okay? And class participation can be asking questions. A lot of it, as people who've had me before know, I ask you to do readings off the PowerPoint slides, so I don't have to keep talking, okay? Answering questions. If I ask for, ask a question and someone chooses to answer, you don't have to. I'm not going to force you. But I might call on some people. I want you to be okay with that. I'm not trying to land on you. Okay. Don't be scared. I know some people are shy and introverted. And if you are and it really will bother you, please let me know and I'll try to remember to avoid it. But if I like point out you specific, hey, Ms. Cobb, what about, blah, blah, blah. I'm not calling you out. It's not like I think you're not paying attention or that I feel like I need to like crack the whip on you or call you out. No, I really want to know. I want you to participate. And it allows me to then give you a check. So it's to your benefit. I'm trying to seek your benefit. You know what I'm saying? So I can then say, even if the person says, I really don't know, okay, that's fine. You said something. Check. You got to check for that class. All right. That's basically all I do. I mean, I don't keep check, 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 check. I'm not like, Ebenezer Scrooge keeping a meticulous list of, well, she only did it 3 times and one was half-hearted, so I'll give her half a check. So, no, it's check. It's what my monkey brain can understand. All right. Simple. So I'm not trying to do it to be mean to you or to call anybody out. I don't want anyone to be afraid of it. But if you don't want it, then please let me know if it's a real issue. But that it is part of the grade. I want to see that you're thinking and maybe take some of you, not all of you, away from, the gambling sites and the gaming sites for just a few more seconds. Just a few seconds. Remember, I get 5% of your winnings. All right? Let me hold on a second. 5%. Anything you win, sir. Gentleman's agreement, gentle person's agreement. I'm just kidding, Ms. Tran. It's really 10%. That's what I prefer. Okay. I should mention this for the paper. I forgot. This is important as well. For the paper, I have books on reserve, a whole bunch of books that I placed on reserve at Keith's Library that you have to use for the paper, at least 3 of them. So I expect 3 references, 3 citations from 3 different books on the reserve shelf. They all have something to do with writing or sacred writing. Okay, and they're all over the place. They're not all, so, take what you think might work for you and for your argument that you're trying to make in the paper and flip through them. But you have to use 3 of them at least once. Okay, so show me that you've used it with a quotation from it, or you summarize a specific point made by the author and show me that, you understand it. And I will check because I'm OCD and I got nothing better to do. I'm a single man on the weekends, sitting in front of my computer. So what else can I do? Grade. That's why it takes me so long to grade as well. I'm a slow grader because I'm looking stuff up. I'm like, okay, he quotes from this. Is this really on page 27? And then I look and I'm like, I don't find this anywhere on page 27. What did the dude do? Anyways, so I will check. So anyways, fair warning. But yeah, you need to use the sources on the reserve shelf. And finally, I mentioned class attendance. All right. Well, yeah, that's important. Yes, that's one of the more important. Anyways, class attendance. There are rules for that. Sorry, rules. But anyways, you're expected to come to class. There are a variety of reasons for that. Again, it's part of class participation. If you're not here, you can't participate. So that affects your grade. It can also they also want to know, that's why we have to take attendance for like the first two weeks at least, because, they want to make sure, especially if people are taking out money from the federal government or the state of Pennsylvania, they want to make sure that the people are actually going to class. So to check up on that. But anyways, so make sure that you're here, so you're getting the material so that you'll succeed in the course. Because if you're not showing up, then you're not getting the material. I mean, I do put videos on YouTube to help people who may have been absent, but it's not an online course. You're expected to be here like a job. So that's my expectation. And and there are penalties if you're absent too much or late too much. And certainly if you miss like a month of the course, you're just not going to pass the course. I mean, no one's going to miss a third of the course and then expect to just pass. So that's serious. So if you have issues like you're working a job or something, Or you're going to have family issues. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to be a jerk or unsympathetic, but that's not my problem. Okay, you got to deal with those issues, and then but don't make this an issue as well, because then it's just if you already have issues that you know you're going to have to deal with. If you start missing class and stuff, and I'm sending you emails saying, "Hey, you're not coming to class. You're getting close to the line." Now you've just thrown a whole huge other issue on your back, which you don't need if you have issues. Kabashi. So take a look at the class attendance section of the syllabus as well. Okay, so that's enough of the syllabus. Let's get on to writing. Yes. What time is it? Oh, good, good. Any questions? Anything I wasn't clear about that you want to know? Confusing or about the syllabus? Anything or nothing? Nothing you can think of? Okay. Well, if there are, let me know. Take a look at the syllabus and let me know. Hopefully I caught everything. That's what takes so long in writing is that you have to think of like every possibility and try to catch it so that a student will know. Anyways, all right. Writing. So this course is Encountering Sacred Writings, and I'm just going to follow that kind of logically along. That's how I organized it in my mind when I first did it, was, let's first talk about what is writing. Then we'll talk about what is the sacred itself. We'll isolate those two ideas and concepts, and then we'll bring them together and say, okay, so what is a sacred writing? Why do we call it a sacred writing? And then what does it mean to encounter it, to meet it in a manner of speaking, like you're meeting a person? Because it's not a person, it's a writing, right? It's like a book or a scroll. It's not a person. So why are we saying encounter? Where's the encounter going? Man. Okay, let's get stuck. Writing. Okay. It's not easy. That's what you always come to college for, to find out that everything that you come to college for answers, right, or information, and you find out the professors, well, we don't really know most of the time. Isn't that what's happening most of the time in your classes? What's the source of Alzheimer's? Well, we don't really know. Well, what do we know about who wrote the Gospel of Mark? Well, we don't really know. So when did this person live? Well, we're not sure. We think. It's like, so what am I paying all this money for? Should go be a Mormon. At least everything is clear and definite. There's a living prophet, and I know what to think and to believe. But that's just the nature of human knowledge. Okay? We have limitations. I mean, the most obvious limitation, the skull. We were lucky. We won the lottery. We got, a big skull in comparison to the rest of our body. And so our brains were able to evolve and grow bigger than other monkeys' brains, other primates. But it's still limited. Our brains can only grow so much. We're not like one of those little aliens that you see in the cartoons or something. You ever watch like the Bugs Bunny cartoons when he has the alien? I know Duck Dodgers. It's with the Daffy Duck and Duck Dodgers in the 26th and a half century, And he's, on Mars and he's fighting this little alien. The alien, of course, is super smart. So he has a huge head. You ever see those cartoons? They also have that in religion. There are pictures of Jesus like that in the Eastern Church, because Jesus, of course, is God. He's God and man. So he has divine knowledge as well as human knowledge. And to show the immensity of his knowledge, being both human, yes, but divine, they represent him as a little child, like the baby Jesus, with his immense head. Immense head. I had a friend of mine show me an image of this once, and Yeah, I could do without it. It looked really weird. The infant of Prague, Jesus dressed up in like a little royal prince, that I can understand. But Jesus with a huge cone head, that I can't take that seriously. But if it's okay, but if you're Russian Orthodox and you love it, then go for it, baby. So it's not easy to provide a clear definition of writing. It's not easy. It's not impossible, but it's one of those things, like a lot of things, that we have to think about. I'm like I beat these things to death in class over class because it's true. It's like so many things that we learn and we talk about, and that's why we're talking about them here in a university and college. Because once you start living your life, you'll never have a chance to talk about them again, especially once you have kids. Ask your parents. All these things that we talk about and we have no idea really what we mean by them. Time, writing, God, space, all these things, words that we use all the time. And if I ask you, define that for me. What are you talking about? What do you mean when you say that? What do you mean when you talk talking about politics, or economics? Okay, you're taking economics. Some of you are taking business, right? You're majoring in business stuff. What is busyness? What is that? Define it for me. But you know what it is. You show up to the class and you sit there and someone, expatiates to you for an hour and 15 minutes maybe on business principles and, ethics and ethics and, systems, economic systems. And you're all there. You're taking your notes. This is maybe your major. But do you ever pick up your head and say, but what is this? How do you recognize it? Writing. There are 6 meanings of writing, and I'm taking this from the article by Florian Kolmas, which is your reading, so get that done. I forget how long it is. It might be a little bit longish. I apologize for that. But if you haven't read it yet, that's fine. Just it's in the syllabus for next week, I think, or for the next class. So take a look at it. And Kolmas defines 6 meanings for writing of how we use this word, this term. First of all, it can be a system of recording language. I'll write this on the board for you because it's not on the PowerPoint. Okay, so you have visible marks, and this is, again, I'm writing this on the board. Oh no, I don't like these walls because I wrote on it before, and it's all messy. Does that look good to you? It looks like a mess. But if I write on here, it comes off fine, but not the same kind of material. Okay, so number 1, what is this? A system for recording language. For recording language, we have marks. Recording language, abbreviate language like that. Marks that you can see just like I've just done, okay? I mean, there's nothing eternal or immutable or absolute about these marks that If one of you wrote it on the board, your S would be different from mine. Your F might be written different from mine. Your R, okay? And even if, in other languages, if I'm writing in another language like Russian, it uses a different alphabet, or Georgian, which uses a different alphabet, stuff like that. Or Chinese, which doesn't use an alphabet at all, uses pictures. Okay, so it's a system for recording things. When you say writing, it's also the activity itself, what I just did on the board. I wrote. Okay, so the concept of writing becomes, something I do. I wrote. And then when I wrote, I wanted to write activity. Sorry. Activity, the act itself. So the concept becomes the action. Writing. And then I wrote a writing on the board. It can also be the result of an activity, like encountering sacred writings, where writing is kind of like, or is, I should say, synonymous with text or a book, a writing. So the result of that activity, the product of the activity, the writing itself that's been written down, result, product. Okay. Well, we still got 3 more to go. Then when we talk about writing, it can mean the form of the writing, the script style, okay, or the block letter style. I'm opting for the block letter because, script will be easier for me to write in, but sometimes people have difficulty interpreting a person's handwriting, when they write a script. Did they teach you script in school? Do they still teach you that? Until you had to write the script? No? Well, I'm sure that's fine. I'm not community churches. Well, that's a lie. But okay, if you write in script, or you write in block letters or something like that, that's another form of writing. The form that you're choosing. All right? If I write it like that, or if I write it more old, whoops, well, like that, like R. Like R. And the form, writing. Penmanship, one might say, I guess. Whether you have sloppy writing or you have clear writing. So the form, the script style or block. An artistic composition, a writing. What does he mean by that? Just like a book or a novel. My writings. Have you read my writings? You read the writings of Hemingway? What did I say? Artistic. Are any of you taking literature? Anyone taking literature? You self-identify. I'm putting you on the spot. You want to tell me you're taking literature? Any literature courses? That's how it's going to be. Really? But your writings, yeah. Have you read Hemingway's writings? Have you read the writings of Shakespeare? So in that form of an artistic product. Or professional occupation. Yes. Yes, sir. A writer. Writing. What does a writer do? He writes. His occupation. Or her occupation. Job. Person is occupied with. Maybe make money off of it, maybe not. What are you? I'm a writer. What does that mean? You write. Well, no, you don't. You're tapping on your computer, on your laptop. That's not writing. No, writing is this, isn't it? You have a hand, you have your hand, and you have an implement, and you're writing the words down. You're not pressing a button which actually accesses code in the computer, which then places an image on the screen. It's not writing, is it? It's not even really typing. At least with typing in the old days when you had a electric typewriter, non-electric, you're actually pressing keys. And, the keys are, I forget what they call those things that would fly up, the metal things that would hit the paper. But anyways, yeah, I mean, it's not as direct as well, but it's even more indirect on a computer because it's all basically code that's being processed or made into images for us. That's what's going on. But a professional occupation, writing. What are you employed in? Writing. Well, what is writing? We have to get back to the original question. Well, what does that mean? What is writing? So what do you do then? And here's my definition. which just comes out of my brain. I mean, after reading all the stuff I had to read for the course, but writing, it's an action. Okay. What do you, because you ask, what is it? What do you do? Can you show me it? And probably that's maybe the best way to explain a lot of things if you can show them. And you can with writing. It's something that is shown. It's not something that you just talk about. Okay. It's not like a concept like, say, love or hate, that is more conceptual. And you can't really show that to people. You can't test it empirically in a laboratory, take a little bit of love and put it in a vial and mix it with this and then see what happens. You can't do that. You have to go to a philosophy course. Oh, philosophy. Don't get me started. But writing's an action more than it's a concept as well, yes, but it's more of an action. You form or you produce with a tool, some kind of tool, some kind of instrument, visible symbolic characters on something else, on its surface. Why are you doing this? Because there are a number of reasons why you can do this, okay? Because you could just we'll find out later, a lot of it can be picture writing. You're just drawing a picture, you're doodling, it has not writing at all. You wouldn't call it writing if you're just doodling. And I said, oh, what are you writing? Oh, I'm just doodling. Here's the little guy and here's his dog and, whatever. No, you're doing it for a purpose. Writing has a purpose. It's purposeful. It's to express abstract conceptual meaning. And we can say the same thing about speech. All these sounds that I'm using. If we were in like if we were in a classroom in China, obviously the speech would be totally different. The symbol, the symbolic, the symbols coming out of my mouth physically would be different. The sounds would be different. Okay? I say love, but I don't know what love is in Chinese, but I know it's a different word and pronounced differently. Okay, probably with a tone, because Chinese is a tonal language. It is now. It wasn't historically, but it developed tones. So your voice goes up or down or all over the place, and it changes the meaning of the word, even if it's the same word. Ma, like ma can mean horse, it can mean mother, it can mean other things in Chinese based on the tone, and other languages like it. So it's expressing concepts. Even speech is, we're using this tool. We're expressing concepts. Okay, so go over it again. What's the important bits? It's an action. We use a tool for it. Okay, it's visible. Okay, there is invisible writing. You ever have that when you were a kid? Get little, I don't know, like detective kits or something. In the old days, they used to have this stuff. You could buy this little detective kits, invisible ink, and stuff like that. Which I forget what you did. You wrote it in lemon or something. It was lemon, or you used lemon juice to bring out. You wrote the ink, it disappeared, and you used lemon juice to make it reappear, or something like that. But that's a trick. Okay, it's suppose you want writing to be visible. Because you want it to be read. Why? Because you're trying to communicate concepts to another person or to yourself. Maybe it's a reminder to yourself. But a lot of times it's to tell other people information. Okay? And it's on another thing. There's a surface to it. You could say, I'm writing in the air, but of course it's invisible. It's analogous to writing. I'm not really writing anything because you can't see anything. There's no surface for me to express the concepts, the letters or the vowels in our alphabet for you to see. So if you can't see it, then what am I writing? I'm analogously writing. It's analogy. It's like writing. That's what analogy is. It's like something else. It's a fancy philosophical term for a simile. It's like something else. Okay? But it's not. You really need a surface. When you have this surface, then you can say, okay, we've got something written here. Because as soon as I move my finger out of the air, there ain't nothing written. Nothing there. But if you're an archaeologist and you dig up, a pottery shell and someone has apparently etched characters into it, it's written, it's still there. Thousands of years later, maybe many thousands of years later. So whether spoken or not, and I said I also want to tie up writing with speech, okay? Because also speech, writing is, we're kind of like, it comes from the same place. We're conveying the concepts and the ideas in our head, just in different ways. One way is orally, okay? We're still using an instrument. I have to use my tongue. I have to use my larynx, my voice box, my lungs for breathing, my lips, the muscles and ligaments and stuff. So there are all these tools of my body that are allowing me to make these sounds. But I'm not doing them on anything. That's why it's speech and not writing. Okay? You say, I'm speaking, I'm not writing. Okay? Because the words are coming out, but they don't go anywhere. There's no surface that they're going on or anything. Where does the word come from? Oh, I love etymologies, right, Ms. Crystal? Oh, yes. Mr. Dunn's a big fan of etymologies. I don't know why, but a lot of times I think it helps me to break down the word. Because a lot of times these big words that we use in academia and stuff, really they have very simple meanings, very basic natural meanings. In Old English, where we get our word writing from write, ritan, so pretty much the same, basically. A little bit of a vowel shift there, but nevertheless, ritan, literally it means to draw something. To draw something. So already you're getting an idea just by doing the etymology of the word, looking up where the word comes from, to see the history of writing, picture writing. People drew pictures, probably certainly drew pictures first before writing developed. Okay, writing was an invention, like finding fire. Someone had to stumble upon it, say, this is a good idea. But pictures, drawing pictures of things, stuff like that. Ritan, to draw, which comes from Proto-Germanic. English is a Germanic language. We derive ultimately from German, or the family of German languages. And proto just means first. So Proto-Germanic is the form that scholars kind of think that the word first kind of looked like. It's a hypothesis, so it's a hypothetical. So you just have to go with it. It's a theory. But anyways, from what linguistic scholars have discovered or think they've discovered, the Proto-Germanic ultimate meaning was to tear at something or scratch. So it seems like you're getting even more basic, okay, than even drawing. Because what do you do when you're etching something into stone or into a piece of pottery or wax or something, even if it's just a picture, but you're still scratching it in there or etching it, or I can say tearing it. I don't know how I can make tear work this one, but scratching works better. You're not just daubing with a paintbrush or something, okay, necessarily. So you get an even more basic idea of this function, the function of, our ancient parents were more interested in functions and concepts, I guess. And the function, the word for the function, I scratch, becomes, I'm drawing, a little bit more conceptualized, a little bit more specific than just scratching at something. And then it becomes even more conceptualized. I'm writing, which involves a whole bunch of scratching and drawing. So Rita. So the word, and we find this in most Indo-European languages. I don't know if I put a map on here, but probably I'm on map. Where are you? There we go. Where are you? There we go. Maps. Uh-oh. University. I really know where we are. Ooh, spooky. There we are. Zooming out. Here's our world. That's as far as we can go. All right. Well, anyways. I'm not going to give you a history lesson on linguistics, but anyways, there are different language families all over the world. Okay, there's not just one. Obviously, you know there's not just one language on our planet. There are many, I think over 1,000 or some. Anyways, and they're all, most of them are related in some way, and they group into different families of languages, probably because they have an ancient ancestor, a single language or group of languages from which then the others branched out. Okay, and this is, so we have language families, the languages of Western Europe, and of course, the Americas, because, colonization, English and stuff like that. So Western Europe, okay. But also there's a relationship we can see in the languages and the structure of the languages that we find in Western Europe with languages going all the way across the Middle East, Iran and Afghanistan, into northern India. Hence they call it the Indo-European language family. Spreads all the way across, okay? And there are other language families, there's the Sinitic languages, which include like Chinese, but also languages. I don't know if Vietnamese would be included in the Sinitic family, but nevertheless, there are other language families. Some are outliers, like Korean apparently does, and Japanese don't hook up with any other language. They're completely distinctive. And also, even in Europe, you have the Basque language in northern Spain and southern France, which no one knows what it's related to. It's not related. It's not like any other language on the planet. And you have some other languages that are outliers like that are isolates, as they say, language isolates. They're isolated. They're not apparently related to anybody. Africa, you've got a whole bunch of different language families. Amongst Native Americans, tons of language families, okay, et cetera, and so forth. Okay, so we're focusing on this Indo-European thing, this breadth of area that stretches from, we can forget Finland. Finland speaks a different language family, and also Hungarian. Finnish and Hungarian are related languages. They're the same language family, but it's not Indo-European. So all the way like this, or Turkish. You don't want to worry about Turkish. I'll put Greece down here. All right. But how did that happen, Well, probably migrations is what we think. So when scholars started noticing that there were relationships, especially when you look at older languages, not so much modern languages, because modern languages are much simplified. But the older languages, which had a lot of grammar and the words changed a lot, and the word were much more conservative in their grammar and the words that they kept. Okay, and so if you compare like languages like Greek to Latin, and Latin to Greek, and then you compare it to like in India, Sanskrit, this ancient language called Sanskrit from ancient India. Sanskrit, or Old Iranian, Persian, Old Iranian in Iran. Scholars started noticing that, like, wow, a lot of these words are kind of the same, or they're very similar. And what's more, they have the same meanings throughout the languages, the same kind of meanings. Or if the meaning is shifted, it's kind of kept the same type of meaning, even if it's shifted a little bit. And the same thing with the grammatical structures. There is a kind of similarity in the grammatical structures of how these various languages, very different languages, nevertheless organized themselves and expressed themselves. And over the years, this is, I'm cramming a lot of stuff into a little period of time, but this basically started in the 1800s. But over many, many decades, they're able to just come up with, there are groups of languages that are related. And this group, according to what they can tell from language study, but also they didn't have DNA, but now that we have DNA studies and they've swapped people, the DNA studies have kind of backed up this theory that was just a theory based on language in the modern times, so in the contemporary times, I should say. And so it turns out that their original hypothesis was it seemed like there was a group of people somewhere above the Black Sea. Here, you can see Ukraine, southern Russia, okay, and we're living here at some time. And we also have archaeological evidence, okay, and apparently they started moving out. And some groups went to the west, Some groups went to the south and across. Okay, and this is the region that they populated, and they brought their languages with them. And as I said, in modern times with DNA testing, this kind of confirmed this because you can test the chromosomes and the mitochondrial DNA and all that kind of stuff from the father and the mother. And yes, there does seem to be relationships between Europeans all the way to northern India. Okay, a genetic relationship, not a complete genetic relationship, obviously, but it does seem to back up the fact that there was apparently that was the central nexus of where the Indo-Europeans came from, somewhere just above the Black Sea, southern Asia, well, it's not Asia, but the southern steppe of Russia, Ukraine. And then they moved out and they brought their languages, and their languages diverged. Languages became different over time. So when I talk about the Indo-European languages, a lot of them share the same meaning for writing, as you might expect. Proto-Germanic had tear or scratch. Scholars think that the language of the Indo-Europeans, Proto-Indo-European language of this group that eventually diverged into all these other different languages, eventually German and English and Italian and blah, 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 everything else, Armenian, means to carve something, to carve in Proto-Indo-European. And so, again, you see that kind of already evidenced in the way the Indo-European languages handle this word writing, to scratch something. Scratching is also a kind of cutting. You're cutting into something, okay? And that's what you find in Latin and Greek. That's what the words mean. Write can also mean to scratch or to carve. And then when we look at the Slavic languages like Polish and Russian, Ukrainian, the language of the Slavic peoples, and some other languages, we get back to the idea of painting or drawing, making drawings or pictures, painting for writing and stuff like that. So there's kind of like a continuity of thought there that's going on in these languages. Don't ask me about the other language families, because I haven't studied them. And I don't know. I could know, but I'm not going to ask. I could email somebody at some university. What words are not? No? Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay. What is writing? Well, I gave you a definition. Let's look at what some other thinkers thought about what writing was and how it was defined. Why, I don't know. I just got to fill space. Why not? So when I thought, who should I look to? Aristotle. Why not? Anyone take philosophy with Dr. Messina? No philosophy with Dr. Messina, Patrick Messina? Or the other guy, what's his name? The other philosopher. I can't remember his name in the department. Sorry. No one take any philosophy courses? You don't want to tell me? We'll see. Anyways, so maybe you've heard of Aristotle, so I don't need to tell you everything about him. But he's a great human being, a great thinker, a great philosopher, okay? A Greek. He was from what we would call Greece today, okay, modern day Greece. So we can say he's a Greek. Of course, he was living over 2,000 years ago, so I don't know if he would have said he was a Greek. Might have said he was an Athenian or something, but anyways, that's how I'll conceive him today, just for sake of argument. Keep it simple. And you can see when he lived. Aristotle lived between 384 and 322 BC. Okay? So over, 2025, so, 2,400 years ago, almost. I'm not great at math, but I'm obviously rounding. So a long, long time ago. BC, why do we say BC? What does that mean? Why did we say BC? I got you, sir, but I got her first. But don't give me a second because I think I might know who you are. Oh, Mackerlane. Ms. Mackerlane, right? Oh, darn it. Sorry, Ms. Mackerlane. And you as well. I'm sorry. I could have sworn. Ms. Praw? Oh, man. Don't help me out. What's the first letter of your last name then? Huh? D? Oh, Ms. D'Aversa. That's right. Okay, sorry about that, Ms. D'Aversa. You got it. Before Christ. BC. It's an English abbreviation, yes? We don't want to write out the whole thing. And so we use symbol. Just write first letter. Let's see. Huh? Is that you? All right. What's your house? Before Christ. All righty. But what year are we in? Are we in BC? Is it 2025 BC? What year are we in? How do we date it now? Do we still date it BC? Yes, Ms. It's the first letter of your last name. T? T. I could cheat and look, but I'd rather try and get it on. Look, that's when I'm getting alerted, I guess. Sorry. Takes time. Oh, Ms. Taylor. Actually, I did have Taylor in my head. I knew it, but I thought it was a first name. Sorry. Okay. Yes, Ms. Taylor. Huh? AD. So it's 2025 D, which means what? What's that an abbreviation for? Yes, Ms. Mackerlane? Okay, good. After death. Yeah. What do you want to say, sir? Anno. Oh, you want to say Anno Domini? Okay, well, wait a second. Now we got to get into the octagon and fight. Because she says it's after death, and you're saying this thing, Anno Domini. Which language is that? It's not English. It's Latin. Where'd you learn that? He shrugs his shoulders. He went and learned when I wasn't looking. You're not supposed to learn, sir. It's not the purpose. Huh?
Middle school.
Middle school. Middle school.
8th grade Latin.
You took 8th grade Latin? Where?
Sandy Run, Upper Dublin.
Huh?
Sandy Run Middle School in Upper Dublin.
Not a Catholic school. Public school. They had a Latin class? In middle school? You gotta watch out for you, sir. It made me look bad. All right, so Anno Domini. What does Anno Domini mean, sir? After death. Okay. When you talk to your Latin teacher. Anno Domini, after death. Okay, so Anno Domini. Does Anno Domini mean after death? Well, what do you mean by after death, Ms. Mackerlane? Jesus Christ, yes, okay. This historical figure named Jesus of Nazareth, who is called the Christ, the Messiah, okay, of the Jews, founder of the Christian religion. Okay, after his death. So we date the calendar from the time he died. Year 1 AD is the first year after he died. Is that what you're saying? Is that how it goes? Huh? You don't know. All right, fine. Someone think they know, or okay, back to you, sir.
It was after
It was after he was born. But I thought you told me that it meant after death. Well, when we're born, we're already dying. All right, I'll turn into a philosopher. No existentialists in the room? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Ooh, what's that? I'll be quiet. So that's a contradiction. I got you. I agree with you. Yes, after death might be the most natural way to translate it. But if you think about it, it doesn't make any sense because what about maybe 30, if we believe it, we know what we know about Jesus is accurate. He lived for about 30 years of his life. He killed around 33, died around 33 years of age. So how do we judge the time before that, of the 30 years before his death? And then the years before him, okay? So you think about it, after death doesn't, if you think some more about it, it's like, okay, it can seem natural to say that, but it doesn't make sense. It's not really logical, okay? Anno Domini, yes. Here, English throws us a curveball. It gives us a Latin abbreviation, or Latin words that are abbreviated, not English. It doesn't mean the year, or it doesn't mean after death. Because if you speak a Latin language, like Spanish, or Portuguese, or French, or ready to go? I thought we had like 5 more minutes. My eyeglasses on. But anno, what does that mean? What does that look like? If you speak Spanish, what does it look like? Or Italian, what does it look like? Anno, the word anno. Then what does it look like? That's written on the board. Right on the board so people can see. What does it look like? What word does it look like? Our annual meeting. What does that look like? Annual. When something's annual, what does it mean? Yes, miss? Yeah, it happens every year. So what do you think anno means? Yeah, year. Year. Dominus is a little bit harder, but if I say to you, I guess the closest I can come to is the word dominate, Yeah, our lacrosse team really dominated. I don't know. What are the Pennsylvania? What are the other colleges? Okay, they really dominated them. They defeated them. Oh, what does that mean? What did they do to them? The other team? Did they lose to them? If I say they dominated? Not necessarily. They could have still lost and dominated. What does that mean, to dominate? Yes, sir.
Take control.
Barnett, yes, control. To be a master over something. A lord, a dominus. So what do you think domini means?
Dominance.
Huh?
Dominance.
Dominus? What do you think it means? You think it means dominus?
Dominance.
Dominance. But what does it mean when I'm someone's dominant, sir? I'm in the dominant position.
Charge.
Yeah, in charge. Again, a master, a lord. So anno means year. So what does domini mean? Yes, Lord or master. The year of the Lord, the master. AD. Now you'll find that I will use BC and AD in the course just because, I don't have a problem calling Jesus Lord and Master, or the Christ, but some people do. So in your textbooks you'll see, it'll be CE and BCE, yes? Maybe you've noticed this. CE for AD, and BCE for before CE. Okay, you're still dating, because some people don't want to, avert to the fact that we're dating our calendar in the West by one person, who's then a religious figure at that. And there are people that, like Jews, who don't think Jesus is the Messiah, so they don't want to say before Christ, even as a name for Christ. They don't want to make that affirmation, so they prefer to say something more generalized. And there are people who don't believe Jesus is Lord either, who don't, certainly Jews. But other people of other religions don't worship Jesus or whatever. So they want to say the year of the Lord. What do we do with them? So, see. Usually, this will be translated as the common era, sometimes the Christian era. Scholars can't seem to make up their minds what they want to do with it. It's just a construct, really. It's a convention to avoid having to say affirmations of faith or beliefs that some people don't believe in. As I said, I don't have a problem with it, and I'm a Christian, so I'll use it. If you have a problem with it, let me know. If it really bothers you, then I can change. Because I don't really have a problem either way. But historically, there is no such thing as a common era. You can talk to history teachers about that. There's nothing called a common era. It's just a convention that they use in textbooks and education use it. It's not a thing. Be sensitive. Yes. I still got a minute. Oh, wait, that's slow, isn't it? You're right. Have a good day. See you on Thursday. Have a good day, sir.